Okay. Hi, how are you? I am Bill Merkh.
I am Vince McDonald.
And today we are blessed to have the wonderful Katrina McDonald.
Is it Katrina or is it Katarina? It's Katrina. I'm just kidding. This is
Whichever way you want to
my
say it.
beautiful,
Doesn't bother
wonderful
me.
daughter-in-law.
Yes. She is married to Vince's son, Vince,
Yes.
as well, because, of course, he named his child after himself.
As is the biblical way.
Really? Or David's kid's name.
Actually, I could have named him Vince, son of Vince. You know,
Vince, son of
Vince
son?
Vince or whatever.
Well, he is a junior.
Yes, he's a junior.
So
Yeah, but everybody in their family has a junior.
that's true.
I mean, it's just it's ridiculous. You guys like couldn't come up with original names like
Well, you know.
Ethan or something like that.
Well,
Anyway,
come on, you're going to do a little background on Katrina here, right? Where she came from?
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
go
Well,
ahead.
I mean, it's not like total interview style. This is more conversation.
So you're gonna talk about my background?
Well, we're going.
Well, why do we not want to talk
No,
about your
it's fine.
background?
Go ahead. It's very boring, but sure.
Okay, let's be bored by
A
it.
lot of people. First off, we have listeners who we are very thankful for. Any of you who are listening, God bless you. And,
Especially if you subscribed or followed. And,
but we really are. We hope that there's one little tidbit that you can take with you or whatever. But Katrina, where were you born?
Tennessee.
She was born in Tennessee. See, people don't know that she's Southern.
have you listened to her?
What's that?
If you've heard her, you,
It comes out
Do you
sometime.
know this? Do you know where else she lived? What other state she lived in for a while?
yes, I do. It was Minnesota.
No.
Oh, it wasn't. I just made that up.
No, she.
No, I lived in Georgia.
She's at Georgia
Oh,
Beach.
okay. Well,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
That's right.
yeah.
But
I
you-
was trying to go north. I was throwing it off.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll never go more north than where we're at right now.
Really?
Never.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Well, she is a wife to Vince.
Yeah,
but she also is a mother to three.
Yes, we met. When would that have been first? Was it like 2015?
Or 2014.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
Maybe it was 2015. Yep, we met then when Vince and I started dating.
I want to say
Yeah.
this to any. I believe in, when I met Katrina, I thought, oh Lord, please let this be the one who our son marries. And I just felt, wow, what a camaraderie. But as I knew in my own life, Greta and I had broken up.
Mm-hmm.
That was part of their journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I may be peculiar. I know this is about her, but I just want you in the background
Yeah,
building into it.
Let's go back to you.
That I was peculiar in that I was saying, Lord, don't let me meddle. Don't let me do what I'm not supposed to do. Help me to. But at the same time, if you can use me in any way, and I remember sending you a message saying, I just want you to know, in this time where you're not together anymore, because they were. I don't know, you guys were late 20s, 30. I don't know. I just said, we as a family, we think the world of you. I just was trying to pave the way that there could be.
He was trying to patch it up.
Oh.
We
Nice.
think the world of you, and
I shake my head at you.
no, I know, but I was like, I just felt led. I honestly felt led of the Lord to just say to her, we miss you. We think the world of you. There's nothing negative, and just want you to know that. Now it was several months before I think that the Lord had them join back together.
Yeah, we reached.
So you did it. Good job.
No, I didn't.
This is all.
No,
You. And that's what podcast is all about. We brought her on here to
Yes.
tell you how great
no,
it
Yes.
is.
no. And
Hey, that's okay with me.
I meant it just as a sense of that. I really meant it how I just felt
Mhm.
genuine. The Lord saying,
Well,
this-
from the moment that I met your family, we clicked.
yeah,
It clicked.
and that
Yeah.
this is and we're blessed anyhow.
Yeah.
So,
No.
but they
I made sure to make it work with Vince so that I got
Really?
the whole.
Well, that's great.
so you can take it from there, Bill.
No,
I just
okay.
want
Well, I mean, I think she's awesome too.
wanted
I'm not
to
going to
make
say
sure
I don't think
that
this is-
sense of
we brought you in here just to praise you. And so that's it. That's the end of the episode. I hope everybody had a great time. Like and follow.
This was great.
Yeah. So we want to get a little bit more serious in a minute. But you have 3 children,
Mhm.
and you don't want.
That
give their names or anything?
Grayson, Audrey, and Vivian.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
In that order.
In that order.
In that
That's
order.
right.
And so, but why we invited you on here isn't just to praise you and praise him,
Yeah.
is also to
Praise
talk
me.
more.
Any-
Really? Okay. No, but what we want to do is talk about the struggles as a mother who has to, Grayson had some breathing issues
Mhm.
and had to be
Mhm.
taken to the hospital a couple times,
Mhm.
correct?
Correct.
And then Vivian, when she was born, I want to kind of get into that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think the Vivian thing we want to be able to
Yeah.
share in a way
Yeah.
for particularly and with families out there who
Mhm.
are going through it right now.
Yeah.
Right.
But
And that's where I want to kind of hit. But
Mhm.
kind of tell us a little bit about what happened with
Vivian.
Vivian.
Specifically. Mhm.
Yeah, let's go into her. Well, I mean, I guess actually let's start with Grayson. So he had some breathing issues. So
Grayson-
that
Yeah, Grayson is such a different experience than Vivian because while his was severe, I still have fear for him.
still.
Oh, absolutely.
it's because
It's because it's a reactive airway syndrome. So basically, we believe that the first or second time that he got croup, which can be very severe for little boys, particularly under the age of 5, it can cause stridor, laborious breathing, and of course, for him, it caused both. We believe that he was treated for croup, but that he also may have had a strain of the RSV.
Okay.
And so when you have a virus that's that severe, so young, it can kind of change the way your airways react to future viruses. So that is what we think caused him to kind of have this flare up of this asthmatic reaction when he gets a virus. So Grayson, anytime he gets a virus, our alarms go up. It gets severe. The last time he had the flu, of course, he had croup, he had mycoplasma pneumonia. So it's nothing compared to what other parents in the medical world are going through. That's
right.
for
He's
sure.
a very healthy
He's
child.
very healthy. I don't want to misrepresent
No,
that.
but I just meant
And even when he had to go to CHOP, that was because Cooper was full. So it wasn't that he needed CHOP. It was that he needed to be treated in a different way. And that was the hospital that had the bed available for him. He's never been in the ICU. And that's
Right.
a big deal.
right.
Okay.
Vivian was completely different in that her breathing issues were 100% structural. So she's born, am I going in the right direction?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
She's born-
we just want
Yeah,
to
no, I think
just
that-
talk.
I think
I
that-
want to just not
what
like
she's
dive
making-
off on
yeah, in a
different
sense,
scenes.
Vivian's was an acute.
Yes.
issue. Go
So
ahead.
exactly.
So she
born
was
totally
born-
normal birth,
What year was that?
2021.
2021.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's born totally normal birth. She, begins nursing. She's doing all the things that babies are supposed to do. We get discharged. We present a concern that she's a little noisy breathing, but some newborns are like that. They breathe very loud. It's not alarming. We get home. We do weight checks at the doctor's office, which is totally normal. And by Saturday, on day 5 of life, we go in for a weight check. She's gained a little bit of weight. This is all good things.
Yeah.
But I notice, I say, she's not eating very well and she seems uncomfortable with her breathing. It sounds like she's congested. He says, all right, go home, try the electronic suction and see if that helps. It's dry. There is nothing coming. And I'm thinking, she's going on 6 hours now of not eating. That's not normal. So I try to feed her again and I notice she's like going like that. And I
Gasping.
kind of
Gasping and pulling
air.
back.
Yes.
Okay.
Jerking her head back and I'm like, Vince, get your flashlight. So I try to feed her again and I shine the light down on her mouth and her lips are blue. I'm like, okay, we have a problem here. So my mom says, you need to take her to the ER right then, because I was a little bit in like, paralyzed decision-making in that moment. Like, no, we just came from the hospital. We can't be going back. So we load her up, we take her in, and I'm still thinking they're just going to deep suction her and pull some junk out or something. That was not the case. She was taken back. She was pulse oxed, and I think her oxygen was under 80%, which is approaching severe loss of oxygen to the brain.
Okay.
And immediately they code blue the room. and about 6 different doctors come in. A stretcher is pulled into the front of the room. They're trying to get her an IV. They need PICU to come down, NICU to come down. They try to get an IV in her 13 times. I stopped counting.
Yeah.
They have her veins on a blue light. She is so dehydrated that the best of the best that they brought to our room could not get an IV in her. And I'm sitting there with this blanket, and it was just,
Yeah.
oh, it was horrible. So the stretcher comes in, and usually with an ambulance, our experience is you kind of have to wait a little bit. It's like a first come, first serve. Not this time. She was immediately put on the stretcher and Velcroed in, this little 8-pound baby on this big stretcher. And we're walking down the hallway. We get an ambulance, and the person who's with us says, "We need to get there." And that's their code of saying, run the red lights, turn on the lights.
What she's saying, go from the hospital they were in to CHOP in Philadelphia.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
So we need to get there. And from then on, it was just getting her
She was in
stable.
the whatever, the pediatric ICU, whatever it's called.
The NICU.
The NICU, yeah.
Yep.
And I remember going in to see her, and just as she said, like, praise God for our medical community, but like so many, like you're trying to see the child, and there's so many tubes and wires and connections to like a football. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what was their diagnosis?
When we first got there, the first thing was getting her stable and getting her hydrated. And then once they started doing rounds in the morning, the Dr. French, I'll never forget her. She was an attending, which is a doctor. Anyway, she said, "This is cosmetic. Vivian's chin is too far back. It's causing her tongue to collapse into her airway. That is the problem. You fix this problem, Vivian is a normal, completely child." They did lung x-ray, this x-ray, everything is clear. Everything is fine. So plastics observed her and said, "No, this is not the problem. There's another problem." So she had to ping them again and say, "No, this is the problem," back and forth.
Right.
So finally they scheduled the surgery. They extend her jaw forward. That was it.
But basically,
For
when she
bees,
says that,
was it.
Well, okay.
how many weeks?
Oh,
was
absolutely.
She was in.
Yeah.
We're gonna get into.
But what I mean is, sometimes I feel bad saying I'm a NICU mom, because God made our journey. If you remove the trauma from it, it was pretty straightforward.
But the
But like,
traumas were.
so
Oh,
the
yeah,
medical
I mean-
issue itself.
That's what's going to get
was-
viewers.
It isn't that they. No,
Right.
it isn't that they just did one surgery.
Right.
Like it's
Yeah.
they did.
That this is.
They did a laryngectomy.
Okay.
So a laparoscopic doctor had to come in, ENT, do a deep scope of her airways, and they said, we're going to do this deep scope, and if this fixes the problem, we're going to go ahead and do the incisions, install the hardware, and that's going to be her path forward. So they did that. They manipulated her jaw. They installed the rods.
So they installed rods on both sides.
Correct. They broke her
And
jaw,
broke her
extended
jaw.
forward.
Okay.
She had metal plates in her jaw, and then she had knobs in the back. And so
And what would they do with
for
those?
5 days moving forward, 3 times a day, a nurse would come in with a little key, and she would turn it, and that would move her jaw a little bit forward, a little bit forward. And they joked with us, and they were saying, by the end of this, you're going to say, "Stop moving her jaw forward. She looks like Jay Leno." And sure enough, I was
Poor
like,
guy.
oh, and her jaw was moving out. At first when she first started getting teeth, she had a little underbite,
Yeah.
But when they moved it forward, and then at that point they removed all, they start taking the layers of support off to see what she can do on her own. So a week after surgery, while she had the extenders in, she was ventilated.
Okay.
So they have to remove that, which is very, I had to leave the room. It was very difficult. She's got this breathing tube going down her nose. It's very, it's going all the way down into her lungs. So they removed that, and then they applied the CPAP, and she was fine. And then they applied the BiPAP. I could be getting those two mixed up. And then she was fine. And then finally, the final test is room air, which is where they just put the cannula tubes up your nose. And at that point, you're not considered intensive care.
Okay.
So by the time she was on room air, they said, she's doing great.
And how many weeks had she been in intensive?
6.
Right, 6 weeks in there.
Mm-hmm.
And
That whole process took 6 weeks because you can't operate until they're 2 weeks old. So it took that long to get to get everything done and to nail down the surgery date. And
they were effectively able to move the jaw forward so that her, as she said, her tongue could then
Mhm.
lie down properly and
Correct.
no longer block
Yeah.
her airway.
Yeah.
When in that journey of
Mhm.
all that, because we obviously are sharing, outside of the sanctuary here
Mhm.
about real, we come to worship the Lord and praise Him. Now, does He go with us outside the
Mhm.
sanctuary?
Oh my gosh.
Where,
Yeah.
in that process with the Lord, your own sense of, did you feel like you and Vince were able to share it with the Lord? Did you feel like you kind of each had your own way of going to the Lord with it?
Mm.
Like you were on, you know what I mean? Like it's
Mhm.
okay to have different
Yeah.
responses and still be together.
Right. I think at first, when you're in that emergency state where you're doing anything and everything, all eyes are on her. This is it. My mom was in town at the time, so we had the luxury of not having to have one of us at home that first couple of weeks.
Yeah.
We were in that room. That was it. We slept at the hospital. We ate at the hospital. That was where we lived, basically. Once the dust settled and we knew what we were going to do, that's when things started to get a little bit more difficult to manage because Vince, I think this is totally normal for a father. He felt like his place was to be with his kids, and taking care of them. And of course, as a mom, I wanted to be with Vivian. She's only 2 weeks old. So that taught us very much that the most important thing that you can do with your kids is come together as a married couple and make those decisions on what you need to do and support each other. And, we learned a few times the hard way, but it was definitely a learning experience for us in that way.
Yeah.
Communication and
Did you find yourself
learning to...
saying, God, where are you? Did you find yourself?
No, not at all.
Good.
I just felt the whole time like, when you're in this room and you see Vivian and she's so healthy, except for just this jaw thing. And I know I say just this jaw thing, just because I saw there was just so much other suffering in all the rooms around us that it's just incomparable. You just cannot compare. So I felt like he just said, you're going to get drugged through the mud, but like, look at everyone else. This is easy. This is not that bad. Certainly didn't feel that way at the time.
But I mean, you found a refuge in the Lord, of that I've got her.
He just made it so clear for us. He took the decision making out for us, I felt like, because it was just, this is the way and that's it.
One of the things I appreciated about you in it, and genuinely, Katrina, I admired, is in that situation, you were able to see God was doing other things in that NICU as well. Because I remember you asking me to come pray with this other woman,
my friend Shakira.
Yeah, so
she's doing great now.
About how God, even the bond that's built through that, or what you saw in there. Like her child was in there how long?
6 months.
6 months.
When he was sick, considered sick in the womb, and they knew he would need surgery right when he was born. He was born at, I believe, a special hospital right next to CHOP, because the idea was he was going to be getting transferred there when he was born, and he had a pacemaker put in. And after I guess a week or two, I noticed, I'm a pretty outgoing person, so I'm like, who are you? Why are you here all the time? Where's your little boy?
Right.
She was doing a photo shoot in his room because he was turning 3 months old or 6 months old.
A temporary neighborhood. Almost,
yeah,
right?
absolutely. Okay. And when she was getting extubated, which is where they take the breathing tube out, I just felt someone hug me because I walked out, I'm a mess, and it was her. And she said, these are really hard days, but you can get through this. And she's also a believer, and she's amazing. And he was discharged from the NICU, which is not usually something that they allow to do, but they did in his case.
Was he
in
there?
times of, so the point, the thing that I just was in times of personal struggle and suffering, which at the moment with Vivian was very significant.
Mm-hmm.
God's also blending lives, and that's what I think one of the things that
Right.
stood out to me through their experience was like, wow, God knew this other one was going to be in here, and as you say, you know, whatever, you still have 2 years later, you still have this
Yeah.
friendship, right? That you,
We do.
yeah.
So was he in there before or after Vivian?
Before.
So
And-
so she was already in there,
Right.
had already experienced
Oh, yeah.
a lot of it before.
Correct.
Okay.
He was discharged while we were there.
While you were
Correct.
still there.
Mhm.
Okay. And as far as, so she has the surgery,
Mhm.
takes the tubes out. How long is she there?
She
In
was
total?
there for 7 weeks total.
Okay.
And she, you know, the one thing I will say, anyone going through a NICU PICU situation is they don't discharge from there, which is, you know, you've had this comfortable
Yeah.
home for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
You've got a one, you know, she had one nurse,
What is
pediatric intensive care,
what's NICU?
neonatal intensive care.
Oh.
Neonatal's the little,
No,
but what no, I mean is you have all.
so they
this-
come in, they're like, Vivian's been on room air for, I don't know, 12, 24 hours. You no longer need intensive care. And I'm like, no, this is our room. Like, I know the nurses. I can log in and see her at any time on the Angel Cam, which is a video monitor.
Oh, that's
you
pretty
download
cool.
an app and you can go on and see her at any time.
Wow.
I have a direct line to my nurse. Nurses know her by now. They know
Yeah.
that she needs the room cold because she runs warm. You know,
Okay.
little things that
Yeah,
a mom
yeah.
knows about her newborn. And she said, as soon as a pediatric bed opens up, she's going to be moved. And I was furious because to me, I'm like, oh no, this can't happen. Like, no. And there was another charge nurse that came in and said, I just let them know that we weren't ready to move Vivian yet. You know, they loved her. They loved her because
Yeah.
she was the most stable patient
Yeah.
in our unit. And we all got along with the nurses really well. And anyway, so they transfer her just as soon as the bed comes up. That's it. You're gone. You're moved. And you go to another floor where the room is totally closed off. And they're basically like, this is great. You're here. We'll see you in 3 hours. And so at that point, you know, one of us, I felt like had to be there to monitor her.
Yeah.
Because it was just such a different, you know, she's 6 weeks old. I'm not, So
the dramatic change.
the
of
dramatic change,
attention
and
that she was
they're
getting.
ready for that.
Yeah.
They see you come in, they see me in tears. They're like, we know. There's nothing we can do about it. This is just the way that the hospital works. And, you know, looking back to almost 2 years later, it's like, Katrina, that was not that big of a deal, you know, but at the time it was a
Big deal.
catastrophe. So that was a very difficult, but all parents that have to go from intensive care to standard treatment, it's a shock across the board.
I'm guessing they were just thankful that the grandfather wasn't coming and visiting anymore. Like,
What, me?
yeah.
Oh, what?
Like, oh, good. Oh, not
We don't
that
have
guy.
to deal with that.
That guy. No, but so then you go down into standard. How long are you now in standard?
A week, because there's a series
okay.
of sort of tests that she has to complete. And also hospital, spend 1 day in a hospital feels like a week. Okay.
Right.
And to the doctors and nurses, it's like, okay, yeah, we're going to get to that. We'll get to that on Thursday, you know, but that's like, no, I want to go home now.
Right.
So we go and she has to present like a baby
Yeah.
and do all the normal things a baby does,
Okay.
hold down her food. Of course, she's on a feeding tube.
Okay.
Probably should have added that in.
Okay.
There's
How long has she been on the feeding
since
tube?
day 6 of life.
Okay.
So
okay.
she's on a feeding tube. During this process, we are towards the end of her stay in the NICU, going into the general pediatric floor. She started to have to relearn how to drink from a bottle. And so because her jaw is extended forward, that's pretty difficult for her to do. She chokes very easily. And of course, you run the fear of her aspirating and it
Right.
going into the lungs. So you have to be very careful with that. So Vince and I, before we left, well, this is what we had to do. We had to learn how to feed her through a bottle, hybrid, which is starting her off with the bottle. How much can she take before she starts to sound like she has a lot of fluid building up?
Right.
Then we stop, and maybe that's it. We put the rest in her feeding tube.
Okay.
And so we have to get that down pat. I have to learn from the feeding team how to do that, and then present to the feeding team that I can do that on my own with no help for 12 hours. That's a part. This whole week is spent sort of learning these things and doing them so that we're competent. And we have to take a feeding tube insertion class, which is, where we learn. Sorry.
Oh, she's back.
No, I just was turning a little.
Did anyone hear anything?
Yes.
So then we have to learn how to insert the feeding tube, because there's a good chance that she's going to rip it out, and when we go home. And that was, I'm glad we never actually had to do it. I'm very happy about that, but we did before we left. We had to pull her feeding tube out
And then
of
get
this
it back.
poor child, and and then reinsert it. I should let Vince tell you that story, but it was a mess, but we did it.
Okay.
And then she has to complete, a car seat test where she can breathe just fine on her own for so many, I think it's an hour and a half before, they base it off of your car drive home.
You
Which
don't have to
for
eat
us
the
was-
microphone. You're really
Yeah, I didn't. I just should have done that. I was just turning.
You're
the-
fine. It's okay. I
Ethan's
get
over
it.
here
I get it.
Producing it going,
He's like, never have Katrina here again.
Oh, you're doing great.
So after a week of, and you finally present.
Yep, we're
Yay,
done.
you
We're
win.
graduated. It was a very
Now the
anticlimactic
nerves
cold
of going-
discharge.
In the
Yeah,
bell.
but
Yeah.
So that
but
was
the nerves
fine.
of going home now.
Yeah.
Now you're.
Now the dust is settled.
But do you?
No,
You don't.
we're not
think-
ready.
You're not
We're
ready.
not ready. I
No.
signed up for every additional in-home nursing option that was covered under insurance,
Okay.
which meant I had a nurse come, I don't know the schedule, the first 2 or 3 weeks until she's presenting like there's no reason for me to be here, which was pretty much, thank the Lord, from the first visit. A wonderful nurse from Bayada Home Healthcare came and looked at her, watched her eat, did this and that, and she's like, "This baby is fine. You don't need me anymore." And I was like, "No, I do need you still." So we did that, and then it was a very, very difficult first 3 months home.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I ask
Just
why it was
getting used
difficult?
to, absolutely, it was just getting used to, she still had to get fed around the clock through the night. So basically they say when you're being discharged, you're going home with a newborn. She's 2 months old, but really she's just coming home. So we had to feed her around the clock through her feeding tube. And then I guess when we were home for a month, I woke up and she had ripped it out. And at that point I was like, oh, we're not going back to that.
Yeah.
So we started, feeding her on the bottle, and she got used to it, and we got used to the way she ate. And so it worked out.
And now she had little siblings wanting to get in her face.
Yep.
climb
Yeah.
on.
So, I want to know more about with the siblings. How did you handle Grayson, and how did you handle all of that with Audrey and everything while you were dealing with trying to take care of Vivian?
Probably not the most graceful. I had, when between the ages of 3 to 9 months old, I would say she's almost 2 now. It was very difficult. I went through a time of just being very easily agitated because there was just a lot of trauma to deal with from, even though it was, I consider it an easy journey in the NICU, there was still so much unmet emotion behind that. So at this point, my mom is back in Tennessee. Everything is kind of normalized. Everyone's living their life like normal, which they should, and I should too. But I'm still sort of stuck in this, fight or flight mode of what is everything going to be okay? And, they had to learn that to just play with themselves, and that was pretty much what we did. I mean, Grayson was not, I don't think Grayson was in school at that time, or maybe he was getting ready to go back to school, but
There's an aspect in here also that obviously you have their immediate family unit. She's referred to her mother, our part. that I don't know if you want to take a break, but I wanted something she had shared about, with the balance of the immediate need with the other children,
Mhm.
that I think it would be good to kind of expound on a little bit, just for people to see, hey, like this is real life, and there's no book
Mm-mm.
of
Yeah.
how does the grandparents respond, how does this respond, how does that
Right.
respond. And I think it'd be, I don't know if
We'll take a break now. We'll
Okay.
get back and we'll hit that exactly when we get back, so you'll have some time to think.
Welcome to Emmanuel Baptist Church, where our focus has been building strong lives in Jesus Christ since 1925, right here in Maple Shade, New Jersey. With 2 Sunday services at 9 a.m. and 11 a.m., you can choose the time that works best for you. And if you have children, our Greenhouse Kids Ministry and Nursery are available during the 11 a.m. service, so you can worship without distractions. But that's not all. On Sunday mornings at 10 a.m., we offer Sunday school classes for all ages. And if you're looking for a midweek pick-me-up, we have a variety of events on Wednesday nights. For more information on all of our programs and events, visit our website at ibclife.org. Follow us on social media and check out our weekly bulletin. And there's one more way to stay connected with us. Download our Church Center app. With this convenient app, you can stay up to date on all of our events and register for programs. Emmanuel Baptist Church, building strong lives in Jesus Christ.
Okay, we are back with Katrina McDonald.
yes, we are.
A mother and unfortunate. No, I was going to say a father-in-law thing, but let's get back to
When I was
Your-
Katrina shared something that I wanted to expand on it, because just for what sometimes folks will say to me, like, oh, Pastor Vince, well, you don't understand, like as if our family, because we're believers or whatever, we're all angelic, and there's no guessing or sin nature or
Well, I think
conflict.
a lot of what it is your family is so in the eye of Emmanuel.
Mm-hmm.
Your brother's up there. Everybody sits up in the front.
Yeah.
Your parents go there. Like everybody is active. They're
Yeah.
Here's your sister Teresa. She's doing VBS. Here's
Right.
But
with some of that,
everybody's there.
Everyone touches the ministry.
But there'd be-
Everybody
some
touches
way.
the ministry
Right.
in a way. Everybody is involved.
Mhm.
So you're kind of well known. It's like,
But what I mean is, it's like there would be people that I'd say, do you know, it's different with my children and grandchildren. But I saw my parents and brothers and sisters at church on Sunday. You know when I saw them again? At church on Sunday. In other words, it isn't like when it comes like down to the more nuclear family here, their family,
yes.
There was a stretch where I'm touching on this honestly with you, like where I was probably on a different end than Katrina when it came to Grayson and Audrey and Vince, and because I would be saying to Greta, hey, like Vince and Katrina are there in the hospital with Vivian, but and I'm sharing this, and anybody listening is allowed to say, man, I'm glad he wasn't my father. It wasn't like I was never intrusive, but we
No, not
we
at
were
all.
talking and saying we all bring different, it's okay as a family, we bring different views, and we got to listen and hear. So Greta was very helpful for me, because I was saying, like, my heart is going out to Vivian and Katrina, looking at her little daughter there in this ICU. But Vivian doesn't know what's happening, and she's never going to remember this. And Grayson and Audrey have their grandmom here from Tennessee, which they love, but they're missing dad and mom and feeling the absence. So I obviously, Vince is my son. Katrina and I are, we're in a journey as we've known each other now. And so I would say to Vince, hey, Vince, I really think you should be home with your kids tonight. And he would say, Dad, like, you got to understand, like, Katrina wants me to be here with her. and so I was like saying to the Lord, Lord, man, I don't want to come between Katrina
Mhm.
and Vince.
Mhm.
Like, I don't want to cause any, but and Greta was a big help in saying to me, honey, you have to understand, this is Katrina's baby. You're saying Vivian doesn't know what's happening. But from Katrina's perspective, Grayson and Audrey are fine. Like they'll be fine. This is hard for a mom of a newborn. And I'm saying that one of the things I realized was, okay, thanks, honey, because
Mhm.
you just I'm backing off in that
Yeah.
regard.
And I also knew we only had my mom for a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
So I wanted to extract all the help I could get and have Vince with me as much as possible, because I knew this is going to stop and he's going to have to be, home if we're not home by the time my mom leaves. And it's just me going back and forth. Thankfully, we did not have to do that, but I'm always thinking, well, what's going to happen when? What's going to happen when? So
Yeah, and I guess what I'm saying is just, I think I preached recently on, we don't, God doesn't give us, here's what you do in every situation, decisions. And it was one of those nights where they were both at CHOP, and I think vehicle wise, we wanted to leave a vehicle, and I was coming to get Vince or whatever and pick him up, and we're driving home, and kind of the Lord was making clear to me, hey, Dad, Pastor Vince, Pop, you're not the, and I knew I wasn't, but my point is, you're not the deciding factor in this. You have a role that's more support than advice. My tendency is, and you know me, is I want to give advice. Here's how. And and I remember driving home with Vince, just thinking, all I want him to know is support. Whatever we can do, we're supportive. I've given the advice, but I know, and I guess what I'm trying to say is the journey, like everything in life, it was your journey with her, but it impacted us all as a family.
Oh yeah.
And learning even relationally for me to say, hey, this isn't your granddaughter. This is Katrina's daughter. You know what I'm saying? And honor.
But God, I'm the one that brought them together. I brought Vince and Katrina back together.
But I always had I always had great respect for Katrina and her. I was never like, it was just more like, Lord, help me to see my role in this is not decision making. I can share a thought, but my role is support,
Yeah.
And
it Vince and I, we learned that we have to be able to make decisions as mom and dad and Vince and Katrina.
Right.
And we answer for those decisions. So it has to be us.
Yeah.
And it's hard whenever he and I both, we got married a little later in life. We moved out a little later in life. So we've always been codependent on our parents.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad thing, to seek wise counsel. And that's what we should be doing.
Yeah.
But when it comes to decision making, we definitely needed something to tell us, stop.
Yeah.
Talk to each other, pray about this, and make the decision and move forward. Stop outsourcing all of your decisions and do this based on what you guys want.
Wow. And even on that, the reality of, like Red and I realize, we get their local presence, and the Solomons, her parents, are down in Tennessee. And for you, even in that, maybe as there's moms out there who are feeling the same way. I wish my mother could be daily here with my, how has the Lord used that even in your own release, surrender, whatever? Or maybe you were
been difficult. It's been a
hard.
That's been very challenging. Yeah, very challenging. But it also helps maturity and growth. And my mom and I's relationship has grown leaps and bounds in a positive way.
Yeah.
My dad and I, he's a truck driver now, and he used to be a business owner. So we talk at least, well, if he listens to this, we talk several times a week. I don't want to oversay how much we talk.
Jeff.
Yeah, but we FaceTime every day so he can see the kids in the morning and things like that. We talk more now than we ever have.
Wow.
Ever have.
Yeah.
Because he has the time.
Yeah.
He's sitting in his truck driving, obviously. And I wouldn't change that for anything.
Yeah.
Anything. And when we visit Tennessee, we get to go to the same house I grew up in because they still live in the same one. So that's really cool. I
Yeah.
can't give my kids the Tennessee growing up, going to the lake and all the things I loved about it, which is fine.
You know, New Jersey has lakes.
Yeah, but it's not the same.
Another tender Tennessee Christmas. Anyhow,
You come up with some of the worst.
so that's
Okay, but I proved my point.
Was that a real song?
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes,
tender
unfortunately.
Tennessee Christmas.
Never-
Really?
The only Christmas for me. Oh,
Uh,
wow. Oh,
I'll have to look it up.
okay.
No, you don't.
I'm gonna
have
be.
to. You'll be fine.
I'll
You'll
serenade.
survive.
Yeah.
I'll
You'll
serenade
be
you
just fine.
at Christmas time.
No, you don't have to.
But by being here, I'm also I don't want to leave that statement like that. With us living in New Jersey, they're getting, one of the positives to the McDonald family is the size of it and the growing up in it's very unique that you have a family who grew up in the same town and now they have their kids in the same
Yeah.
town and now you have your grandkids in the same town, and they're going to the same church that their parents went to. So that's very, very cool. And as my parents and my mom and I, we weren't church hoppers, I would say. In a way we were, but we're giving them something that's very, consistent, and they're growing up with great family and friends.
Yeah,
So.
and that's I think the world of Katrina is I'm just so thrilled that she's the mother of my grandkids and all. I guess I just wanted to be able to touch on that part of, hey, we're still involved in real life, and there may be times that she has to be able to have the grace to say to Vince, "Your dad is frustrating me on this," or whatever. You know what I mean, and understand. Greta gets frustrated with me, or my own family gets frustrated with me, and that sense of we.
I've never noticed that.
No, but I mean that sense of I guess I just was trying to touch with that these kind of medical issues again are shared with a family, and when it is, it exposes sometimes that you may have different expectations than this one does, or my one sibling may handle it this way, another
Right.
sibling may handle it that way,
Right.
and you learn to respect that, and it's okay, and there's no right way in a lot of these things.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
There's
Yeah.
no right way, and I think you're doing great. You and Vince, I admire the way you've navigated with the Lord through it all.
And
Yeah.
do you feel now as now that Vivian's okay and as your kids are getting older, do you still feel that fear for your children, or that do you feel?
Yeah, I tend to recluse.
Okay.
We start, kind of cutting out activities and, being aware of who we're hanging out with in terms of, are they sick?
Yeah,
Do they have a cold? Is there a cold in the building? Well, then we're not going to be in it. And that can take over my thought process and completely determine what we do.
How
And
do you get past that? Or do you not?
you either do or you don't.
Okay.
Yeah, you either go into it saying, okay, we're going to do what we're going to do. Or, you know what? We are not going to do this because that child over there just sneezed and I don't feel like dealing with that right now. And that's the way it is. I mean, that's just the way it is. Now, if it was just Vivian, if Grayson had never had any problems, and probably wouldn't look at it that way.
Yeah.
But because Grayson, it's just very dramatic.
But as parents, I honestly don't care what anybody else thinks about how I raise my kids, as long as I know.
I
my
haven't
kids
gotten to that point yet, and I'm
no, because-
trying to, but it's difficult.
Well, yeah, but
when
my
you,
kids are older, and
Sure,
so
right.
I mean, it's a lot easier just to be like, I don't care what you think about how I raise.
That's why
my
we
kids."
got to get Ethan in here as a guest and see
Yeah.
how you raise your kid.
As he's sitting in this room, adjusting our microphones as we go in and out. No, but I mean, yeah, it doesn't. I mean, as far as your kids are older and now have kids of their own. How do you handle that? Do you care what other people think, and not about your kids, but
No,
what
listen, I
about
would
your
hope
parenting style?
I hope in my what I believe in my heart, and I hope it's true, is that my focus isn't on what are people saying or thinking. As I said, as a pastor, I was never focused on, are those people going to, they're the pastor's kids. I was always focused on what is best for my children with the Lord and in life. And I can say, like, my prayer for each of, my prayer every night is, Lord, let Vince and Katrina have peace with you and peace with each other. Lord, let Nate and Deanna have peace with you and peace with each other. Lord, let, Caleb and Natalie have peace with you and peace with each other. Like I surrender. But when I say I surrender, there's the human reality of, like, if we can even talk about even on, like, earlier this week, where I know in my heart I'm like, Katrina is doing a fantastic job. She's terrific, whatever. And when she was concerned about sickness or something, and then I'm going, well, you can never get, you can't worry about that. And I revert back to that person of, like, but I always then in my mind go, but I want her to know she's their mother, and I respect that totally. And so she's welcome to go, thanks for your opinion. And I'm not agreeing with it. And I hope I'm growing in that area.
Oh, you definitely are. I receive the advice, and I hear it, and I go forward.
You feel
Dismiss it, and
you feel complete saying,
do what I
thanks, Dad. This is not a pastoral decision.
This is a me thing, and I'm gonna choose.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's part of just you're understanding that in families we all feel this sense of roles, and
Right.
in premarital counseling I talk to couples about, look, what's your relationship? It's wonderful to be close with your parents, it's wonderful, but leaving and cleaving means that you have to prioritize, you have to make the decisions for your family. Now, I can say that and teach it, but it could be the way I acted didn't actually reinforce that or communicate that. And my son's going, and maybe in his mind, well, Dad, you're telling us it's our decision, but you're trying to influence how I make it.
Right.
And
I think that's parents across the board. And I think that's just
there's that
part of having that relationship.
Right.
If you're blessed enough to have that relationship, it's going to come with that too.
Right. There's that loving care that wants to give advice, but where is the line where you go, okay, my dad used to talk about, when we're off the, children are on a conveyor belt, and eventually they come off the conveyor belt. You're done being the one. Now you still are part of their life, but you're done being the one who's adding parts to who they are.
They're done being configured.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I took advice from you, and as a parent, you gave me some years ago about with raising the kids of if they both are fighting, separating them. What did you do wrong? Don't worry about what the other child did.
Right.
What did you do in this situation? How could you have made it better? And I tried to implement that. I didn't always do a great job, but listening to you, and again, your kids are older than my kids. Now your kids are even younger. So listen to me. No. I was going to say, do you have advice for anybody that is going through this? Or if you don't have advice, or just...
whether it's the chronic, at this time we'll call it, hopefully Grayson will grow out of it, but chronic, or whether it's the acute, not being cute, but acute, that intense moment of medical stuff.
That's kind of a tough one to answer.
Yeah.
Because I still don't know. I still, when it comes to the chronic thing, like with Grayson, it's just kind of an always underlying amount of stress.
Yeah.
Worrying about when the next time he's going to get sick. And I am not painting a picture that this child is going to the ER every other week.
Yeah.
That's not the situation.
No.
But when we have to...
He's probably running around the playground right now at school.
He's running around, that's for sure. But most parents, when we have to like pulse ox him, or I have to listen to him with a
Again.
stethoscope,
Pulse ox, help me out. I
check his oxygen level, make sure it's
There we
not
go.
dipping a little bit.
Okay.
Because his airways, they like to collapse when he has mucus in his lungs. Instead
Okay.
of coughing it out, he tends to kind of shut down a little bit.
Got it.
So that's why he has to do like a daily inhaler. And then when he gets sick, he does albuterol steroid inhaler. And we have to check him and make sure that he's doing breathing exercises, which is like, blowing through a straw really hard and making sure he's opening up his airways really good. That's stressful.
Yeah.
So, for Vivian, I feel like it was just so, it was right there. There's no decision making. That's it. They did it. I didn't have to advocate for her, which I was always so grateful for. It was just done, it was
Yeah.
done for us. And I was always so grateful for that. With Grayson, it's very much a watch and wait. Okay, well, is he doing this? Well, how many, when he falls asleep, is he breathing rapidly? Is he fevering when he's breathing rapidly? Because that could coincide. So I don't have any advice.
So it
And
seems like
it-
Audrey's got to be your favorite.
Oh, Audrey's my Audrey.
In
Yeah.
between is Audrey.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
did-
my goodness.
Yeah, Audrey, would you? Has she reached an age yet where like you can? Will she talk about Grayson's? Like, is she aware of, mommy? Is Grayson
No.
gonna have to go? Okay, I didn't know
No.
if she is.
Not like that.
Yeah.
No. She handles things.
Oh, she's a tumbler.
She is.
I saw them on the trampoline.
Mhm.
You would think they were the same age.
Oh,
She was-
absolutely.
she was
Yes.
going right at him.
Yes. Yes. He's at a little, well,
Yeah.
he's a smaller little guy.
Yeah, but she just ran right at him, and
Yeah.
it's cute. But
Yeah.
so she's been, no doubt, though, influenced in some way by at least an awareness of it. Maybe her mind
Mhm.
doesn't
Maybe not.
process
Yeah.
it, but
Yeah.
the journey,
Right. Yeah.
right?
Well, I thank you all for listening.
Yes.
Thank you so
Thank-
much for
Thank you,
being here.
Katrina,
It was
for
awesome.
sharing the journey.
And follow, like, subscribe, do all that stuff.
Yeah, we appreciate you listening, and we really do. Hopefully,
Yeah, man.
God blesses you in some way.
No matter where you are, no matter what you're going through in life.
God loves you.